Chapter 9, The Queen of the Night. I still don't think we should follow some unsigned notes scribbled in a public place, Draco muttered as they neared the Potter cottage again. Anyone could have written it. Yes, well, that's why we went on that little wild goose chase, came Granger's whisper from nowhere. To shake off anyone who might be watching. After reading the note, they had drifted away from the cottage like casual tourists. They left Godric's Hollow, swapped their transfigurations for disillusionments, and Potter and Granger, the two smallest, put on the invisibility cloak just to be safe before sneaking back into the village. Now, standing before the cottage again, Draco didn't like the idea of going inside. What if they've set up wards or alerts? As long as it's not an anti-apparition ward, it won't matter, Granger whispered back. And we can check for that. Everyone remember the plan? If anything strange happens, Weasley muttered, separate to that cave where we stayed after they found us last time. Good, Potter said. Let's go. The ivy on the iron gate shivered, as if stirred by a breeze, as the Gryffindors climbed over it. Draco sighed but followed. The Potter cottage was made of handsome, weathered stone, though much of it was hidden beneath thick, dark ivy that had grown wild over the years. The front door had once been a bright crimson, but now the paint was dull and peeling, the handle rusty. Let's look for a side door, Potter whispered. I don't think we should just walk in through the front. Draco caught the strain in his voice. Suddenly, he imagined returning to Malfoy Manor after a decade to find it overgrown, the gardens wild, windows stained, the upper floor blasted apart. The picture of neglect and ruin. Weasley had noticed Potter's discomfort too. Come on, he said. Let's try around the back. He took the lead, and they followed his faint outline, careful to step on the cracked flagstones to avoid leaving footprints in the earth. At the back corner of the cottage was a small overhang, and beneath it, a second red door with black hinges. Alohomora, whispered Granger. The lock groaned as it opened, and Weasley pushed the door wide. They stepped into a small kitchen with outdated fixtures. It might once have been cozy. Draco's eyes lingered on nested copper pots above the cabinets, and on an enchanted plate on the wall, where a painted rooster pecked eternally at a few brush strokes of grass. But time had stripped away the warmth. The air smelled of rot, and mold spotted the corners of the ceiling. It seemed the sign had spoken literally. No one had touched this place since that Halloween night. Draco's gaze settled on a detail that felt almost horrifying. A single glass of water stood on the edge of the counter near the sink. Someone might have just pulled a drink and left the glass there. Weasley shut the door behind them and swept a patch of hardwood floor clear. Otherwise, the dust lay thick like a carpet. Undisturbed, except for one set of footprints leading forward into a dark, narrow hallway. Look, Draco said. Someone's been here. He didn't like how his voice sounded higher than usual. We know someone's been here, Granger said, trying to sound matter-of-fact, though she sounded tense too. Whoever left the note. Let's go then, Weasley said. We don't want to linger. Yeah, Potter's voice was hoarse. No lumos. Someone might see from outside. They entered the dark hallway. Draco could barely make out tarnished framed photographs on the walls. One familiar face looked exactly like Potter. It had to be his father. Another was a woman with long dark red hair. Surely his mother. Draco hesitated at a photo of them waving at a small black-haired baby. In terms of years, they looked barely older than Draco, but the love, pride, and focused affection in their eyes as they looked at their son made Draco feel younger by a decade. It was a look he knew well from his own parents. At that moment, he missed his family so much it felt like his lungs were being squeezed tight. He forced himself to breathe, to walk silently. They passed a small reading room with dusty sofas, then a guest bedroom, before reaching the front room, where a stairwell led upstairs. The stairs creaked loudly as they climbed. Soon, they reached a carpeted landing. Turning a corner, they saw a door at the end of the hallway. Draco felt a cold draft from it. Light spilled through the crack beneath the door, promising the room beyond had been torn apart. They approached carefully. 2 steps away, a whispery voice spoke. All 4 froze. Harry Potter? Hang on, said Granger sharply. She and Potter slipped out of the cloak, leaving them disillusioned. She raised her wand and whispered, Scatus dicoperare, hominum revelio. When nothing happened, she added, Periempta revelio. A fine shimmering mist descended over the door. After several tense moments, it cleared. Granger muttered, strange. What is it? Potter asked. Well, there's no one here, Granger said. This is an anti-apparition ward, but it's odd. It's only one way. It prevents anyone from operating into the room. but once inside, it doesn't stop us from leaving. Looks like someone's trying to protect the room. Or something inside it. Yeah, but what about the voice? Weasley said impatiently. Is it dangerous? I can't be sure. If there's a curse, it's not a common one. Well, Draco muttered, the Dark Lord wouldn't bother with common curses. Exactly, Granger said. So remember, if anything happens, keep calm and disapparate right away. She sounded nervous, as if talking to herself. Right, Potter said. He stepped to the door, straightened his back, and said, It's me, Harry Potter. The whispery voice spoke again. What did Albus Dumbledore tell you he saw in the mirror of Ariste? Draco had no idea what that meant. Potter drew in a sharp breath. Himself, Potter said, his voice tense but excited, holding a pair of woolen socks. The lock clicked open, but they didn't move to open the door. Potter's outline turned back toward them. Only Dumbledore and I knew that. Do you realize what this means? He must have left someone from the Order to do this. Granger whispered. In case something happened to him. He must have given an Order member this assignment. Still, Potter didn't open the door. It's all right, Granger whispered. Yeah, I know, he said. I just feel strange. Don't blame you, mate, Weasley said. Here. Want me to go first? Potter didn't object, so Weasley grabbed the handle and pushed. Fresh air rushed in, sweeping away the damp, musty smell that had built up over 2 decades. The sun blazed through white clouds, casting long, beautiful shafts of light into the room. It was a chamber forced open to the elements. They stepped inside onto a warped floor, soaked by years of rain and littered with torn wallpaper. Some burned to ragged shreds, others fallen more recently. A chest of drawers stood against the wall, its side facing one corner heavily burned, while the other side showed pale pine untouched by fire. In that corner stood the barest skeleton of a wooden crib. Charred and worn by decades of rain, it still stood upright. No one spoke for what felt like a full minute. Draco's imagination took over, painting pictures of a flood of green light, of the woman in the photographs collapsing in front of the crib, her dark red hair spread over her lifeless face. Draco suddenly became aware of strange, hard breaths coming from a few feet away. Potter was trying, and failing, to hold back tears. Still, no voice broke the silence. The disillusioned Gryffindors gathered around Draco like pieces of a strange, half-invisible puzzle. Weasley putting an arm around Potter's shoulder, Granger taking his hand. Draco's throat tightened. He felt like an intruder. He looked away, out through the broken wall to the street of Godric's Hollow, where Muggle children were still, oddly, running, laughing, playing as if none of this were happening. After a moment, there was a sniffle and the sound of a hand wiping a wet face. I don't understand, Potter said, voice rough. There's nothing here. I'll check the drawers, Weasley said. Hermione, want to do the shelves? Potter moved toward the crib and made a startled noise. Granger and Weasley rushed over immediately. Draco, unable to stop his curiosity, followed. That whisper again. It asked how I caught my first snitch, Potter said. In my mouth. I nearly swallowed it. The air beneath the crib shimmered like a desert mirage and folded away, revealing a small wooden box. Granger gave a soft squeak. Open it, Weasley urged. Come on. Potter lifted the box and slipped the latch. Inside were 3 objects, a golden snitch, a silver item that looked like a cigarette lighter, and a book titled The Tales of Beedle the Bard. There's a piece of paper, Granger said. Sticking out of the book, Potter pulled out the paper and unfolded it. It's his will, he said, scanning it. Dumbledore's will. To Ronald Bilious Weasley, I leave my deluminator, hoping he will remember me when he uses it. To Miss Hermione Jean Granger, I leave my copy of The Tales of Beedle the Bard, hoping she finds it entertaining and instructive. And the snitch? Weasley asked. To Harry James Potter, Potter read aloud. I leave the snitch he caught in his first Quidditch match at Hogwarts, as a reminder of the rewards of perseverance and skill, and the sword of Godric Gryffindor, as a reminder of the legacy of courage through every dangerous age. And at the bottom, Potter ran his fingertip over the bottom of the will. Draco leaned in to read the note scrawled there, shaky as if written by someone half asleep. 1511, 2 a.m. Lillimont Lake. That must be where the sword is, Weasley breathed. But why didn't they just hide it here with the rest? Would you leave that lying around, Weasley? Draco said. I don't know if you can leave it lying around, Potter said, folding the will and placing it back in the box. That sword's not normal. I gave it to Dumbledore, but it appeared out of nowhere when I needed it. If someone left it here, It might just go back to the school. What do you mean, go back to the school? Granger asked skeptically. I mean, the school might kind of reclaim it until someone else does something brave. It came to me because I was rescuing Ginny, right? Where was it before then? I don't know. Maybe we have to earn it again. Potter stood up, clutching the box so tightly that the disillusionment charm hit it completely. Listen, he said. Before we leave, I have an idea. Yeah, Weasley said. I want headquarters to be here. This house. There was a long pause. Harry, Granger said cautiously. I don't know if that's a good idea. Why not? Everyone knows where it is, mate, Weasley said, clearly uncomfortable. Even if it's under the Fidelius charm. Especially once it's under the Fidelius charm, Draco added. Harry, it's a whole house. Don't you think the Death Eaters will notice if it disappears? Yeah, Weasley said. Once they see it's gone, they'll know what we've done. They'll line up down the street, waiting for someone to slip up. We won't make a mistake, Potter said. We'll include the garden, the hedge, everything inside the charm. People can apparate right in and out. It won't matter if the Death Eaters technically know where it is. More silence. Draco shifted, feeling it was wrong to tell Potter no here, in the ruins of the life he never had. Listen, Potter said, Vold. Weasley sputtered, and Potter sighed in frustration. You know who, then? He's got one thing right. Yeah, Weasley said skeptically. What's that? It's important where you put things, Potter said. It means something. You saw the writing on the sign outside. People have already come here, because this house reminds them there's hope. I don't think there's a better place for the Order's new headquarters. Harry, Granger said softly, and Draco wanted to stop her from saying what she was about to say. Harry, don't you think you might be influenced by how it feels to see all this? What's that supposed to mean? Potter's voice rose. Of course you're right, she said quickly, and it would be meaningful. But don't you think there could be a safer, less obvious place? Please don't be angry, Harry. I just want us to be safe. For a long second, Draco feared Potter might shout, here in the open air where sound could carry to the street. Instead, Potter lifted his disillusionment charm, standing silhouetted against a crumbled wall. He didn't look angry, just serious. I know we want to be safe, Potter said. But if that was the most important thing, we'd give up searching for Horcruxes and go hide in Siberia. We'd let the Death Eaters take over Britain, and those who wrote on that sign would think we'd disappeared. And then they'd give up too. He shook his head. This isn't reckless, Hermione. It's no more dangerous than anywhere else. We're not inviting them in. We're sending a message. They will never get in again. He looked around the ruined room. The cinder-encrusted crib, the buckled walls. Then back at the others, silently watching him. I didn't ask to be a symbol of all this, Potter said. But he made me one. That was his message. He pointed toward the crib, the impact zone that had shattered the nursery. And now I'm of age, and I want to send a message back. My life isn't just a war memorial. As long as I'm here, I won't let anyone else's life become one. After his words, the longest silence yet fell. Draco felt outside himself. Potter sounded like a hardened general, someone who had already accepted death. It was as if stepping over the Potter's threshold had taken him into another world. Part of him wanted to run, to look away and forget all this. The sight before him felt like a warning. Was this the future waiting for him and his parents? The destruction of home and family? If he got caught with the Gryffindors, it would definitely be trouble. Was this a needed reminder to keep his distance from Potter, Granger, and Weasley? To break away from the strange comfort that had built up over the past weeks, and escape while he still could? A sniffle nearby snapped him out of his panic. It was Granger, trying hard not to cry. Draco swallowed hard. There would be time to think about all this later. For now, he let out a loud, somewhat theatrical sigh. God, Potter, do you always do that to win arguments? Granger let out a wet little laugh, and Potter's mouth twitched before breaking into a reluctant half-smile. Yeah, Weasley said. All right then, I'm convinced. But let's get out of here before someone spots you standing around. The next few days were filled with fresh purpose. They experimented with the items Dumbledore had left for them. Potter and Weasley tested the snitch and the deluminator. Draco worked with Granger translating the tales of Beetle the Bard from the original runes, and they practiced declemency. It was almost a relief that they had no new leads on the Horcruxes. There simply wasn't time for anything else. Then, 3 days before their planned trip to Diagon Alley to visit the Scavengers Guild, their plans were turned upside down. Hermione Malfoy, Weasley called. hurrying into the dining room where Draco and Granger were poring over the book. "Come listen to this." "But," Granger started, quill in hand. "No, right now." Granger looked at Weasley's strained face, exchanged a nod with Draco, and they all headed to the sitting room. Draco wondered when he had started exchanging these silent nods with Hermione. Potter paced before the fireplace as the wizarding wireless blared louder than usual. The Back to Hogwarts rush. These measures will protect young witches and wizards from imposters. Anyone failing to present papers at the checkpoint will be flooded back to their origin until proper ID is shown. Aurors will be on standby, along with representatives from the newly formed Muggle-born Registration Commission. Aurelia Smeckworth reports live. Weasley tapped the wireless twice, lowering the volume. "What are they talking about?" Granger asked. "What is this?" "They're installing security in Diagon Alley, Hogsmeade, and Platform 9 3/4, Weasley said grimly. "To enter Diagon Alley, you have to flew through the leaky cauldron and show your papers. It's obviously to identify Muggle-borns, just as we expected." "You heard it. Muggle-born Registration Commission," he said, voice thick with disgust. "Can't we apparate into Fred and George's place?" Granger asked. "Or flew into their flat?" "They've warded the whole neighborhood," Potter said. "You'd have to apparate outside the leaky cauldron and go in the front door, which means going through the checkpoint anyway." "And no flew either," Weasley added. "The Department of Magical Transportation has expanded by 350%, they said. Everything needs prior authorization." But, Granger shook her head. "They can't do this. How can they? People won't want to live in a world where they can't just pop down to the shop or visit a friend without proving who they are." Draco sank into an armchair. "It won't last forever," he muttered. "Like Weasley said, it's to register people. After a few months, once everyone's registered and the bad ones identified, they'll say the threat's over, and things will mostly go back to normal." "You know what this means for the Horcrux, though," Potter said. "Yes." Granger sighed, slumping onto the sofa. "Transfigurations won't be enough. A simple finite incantum would undo them, and probity probes detect transfigurations, too. We'll have to wait for the polyjuice potion to finish brewing." They all glanced toward the tent's smaller WC, whose door was permanently shut to contain the foul smell of the polyjuice potion. Granger had placed several stabilizing charms around the room to keep the potion from spilling whenever they packed up the tent. Potter let out a frustrated sound. "I hate the idea of that Horcrux getting picked up by someone else and disappearing. It's already had over 2 years to vanish if it was thrown out back in 5th year," Weasley pointed out. "Just a few more weeks now, I suppose." Potter sighed. "All right then, we'll go next month." "September 22nd, Granger said, already flipping through a planner that had appeared in her hands. Draco was amused to see it filled with notes, like she was preparing for O.W.L.S. all over again. "Who are we supposed to polyjuice ourselves into?" Weasley asked. "We'll want to go as a group," Potter said, "so a family is best this time." "Hogwarts term will have started by then," Granger said, "so we can't use anyone we know. They'll be at school on September 22nd. "A family with kids under Hogwarts age," Weasley said. "Or kids who've just left Hogwarts but still live at home." "Good thinking," Potter said. "And it should be a family that can pass through the checkpoint without too many questions. A pureblood family." Draco sighed, knowing they'd all look at him in unison. And he already had the answer ready. "Pansy Parkinson," he said reluctantly. "She has 3 younger brothers. 7, 9, and 10. They wouldn't be at Hogwarts." Weasley snickered. "What?" "Nothing," he said. "Just funny knowing Ms. Better than you Parkinson was an accident." Draco shot him a disgusted look. In truth, Pansy's mother had been pressured into having Pansy at 19, at her grandmother's insistence, to prove her fertility. A cause of bitter conflict between mother and daughter for years. But Draco wasn't about to share that. "Malfoy, you've been to the Parkinsons' house?" Potter asked. "Can you get us in?" Draco hesitated. Now that he'd suggested it, he regretted it. Could this put Pansy's family in danger? In theory, a sleeping charm and a few hours would leave them none the wiser. But in practice... "Look," Draco said, "if you make yourself stand out in Diagon Alley, you'd better be ready to prove it's us, not the Parkinsons." I'm not going to be responsible if Pansy's family gets hurt," he thought, but he couldn't say it aloud. He looked at Granger. She nodded, as if reading his mind. He looked away, frowning. He hadn't agreed to let her legitimize him, but somehow he found himself hoping she would. We'll make sure it's safe, she said. We'll take precautions to make the Parkinsons seem like real victims if something goes wrong. I'm sure the Death Eaters will be glad to portray us as unhinged threats to society. They'll love that, Potter said with a humorless laugh. The idea of us preying on innocent purebloods. Front page of the Prophet, probably. And that's just if things go wrong, Granger said. We know the day we're doing it and have weeks to prepare. We should be able to control everything tightly. Hang on, Weasley said, looking blankly at Draco. Yes, Draco replied. You said, if you do something to make yourselves stand out. He didn't say more. Draco raised an eyebrow. Yeah, Weasley. Should I start using only one-syllable words from now on? Weasley didn't even blush. You're just trying to get out of coming. Get out of it? Draco said. Excuse me, when did I ever say I was going to come? Now Potter and Granger both looked at him like he'd done something terrible. What? He said, annoyed. I'd rather not go dancing into the middle of Diagon Alley unless absolutely necessary. Can either of you tell me what use I am on this little mission? I don't know, Potter said, sounding heated. But wouldn't it be annoying to get there and realize we actually need you? Draco shook his head. Potter, that's not my problem. Merlin's pants. Weasley laughed in disbelief. I knew it. Didn't I say he'd get cold feet? He looked at Granger as if blaming her. I'm not getting cold feet, Draco snapped. It's not cold feet if you weren't even involved in the first place. You three are clearly making assumptions about why I'm here. Oh, have we? Potter snapped back. What are you here for, Malfoy? A holiday? No, troll brain. I'm here to get back to my parents. If that's all you cared about, Granger said, why didn't you stay in one of the places we sheltered you? We could have found you when we had new info about them. Draco felt a strange twist in his stomach. Granger was staring down at her planner instead of at him, and her voice was low and controlled. She wasn't angry exactly, but close enough. That's her fault for making assumptions, Draco thought wildly. It's her fault for wanting me to. To help them? Well, he already had, so why weren't they satisfied? What exactly do you want from me? He asked. Weasley sighed. He didn't look angry or shocked anymore. More resigned, which felt worse. If you don't know by now, Weasley said, I'm not going to tell you. He and Potter left the room together. Draco sat alone, stewing in circles of thought. The Potter cottage stayed at the back of his mind. The blasted ruin, the hollow look in Potter's eyes as he talked around what he'd lost. Some sort of loyalty pledge, I guess, Draco muttered. Granger said, frowning at the carpet. That's what Weasley wants from me. A declaration of loyalty to the Order of the Phoenix. For me to renounce everything I've done and grovel, right? To throw my whole life into fighting the Dark Lord like you three. So basically, to be nothing like myself. Granger said nothing. Her silence made Draco more defensive. I told them I'd help with the Parkinsons. What? That's not enough. I don't even want to do it. I bet I'm putting Pansy and her whole family in danger. And for what? For you three and your cause. But I'm doing it. And that's still not enough? What will be enough? When I join up. When I put myself in mortal danger for you. When I die. Would that make up for everything? We'd never ask you to die, Granger said quietly, seriously. Ron's just angry you won't go into Diagon Alley, that's all. Draco let out a frustrated sound and leaned forward on the chair's edge. You don't understand, Granger. It's the same thing. Going into Diagon Alley is as risky as hunting the Dark Lord. I'm not being paranoid or dramatic. It's death or nothing. You don't know the Death Eaters. They don't save the killing curse for special occasions. She was silent for a long moment, then glanced at him. Her expression looked softer. Some of the tight feeling in his stomach eased, and he wasn't sure why. What did he care if Hermione Granger thought he was spineless? Suddenly he knew. He did care. Not because of her opinion, but because he wanted the truth known. He wasn't a coward. Granger moved her planner from her lap to the sofa. He noticed the tiny, neat writing. Years of overachieving on essays. I've been wondering, she said. What did you think of when you put on the diadem? Draco clenched his teeth, so they clicked. Granger met his eyes. Stop, he said, looking away instantly. Stop doing that. Stop what? I know what you're doing. I'm not trying to legilimate you, Malfoy, she said, surprised. I'm not very good at it. I definitely can't do it without speaking, let alone wandlessly. But, he frowned, confused. Hadn't she just seemed to know exactly what he was thinking about Pansy's family? He shook his head. The point was, she couldn't see inside his head. Good. Everything was still private. So why was he talking to her about the Death Eaters? He didn't have to say anything. I told you before, he said. Nothing important. Fine, she said, standing. I'm going back to the ruins. Fine, he said. So will I. I don't need your help. Oh, stop being a martyr, Granger. You'll be up all night, finishing the Fountain of Fair Fortune. She sniffed but said nothing. He slouched in the chair across from her at the dining table. They worked on their translations. Every so often, he thought he felt her eyes on him, but he never looked up. The tent stayed frosty for a few days after that, but they had so many plans to distract them that even Ron couldn't hold a proper grudge. Harry added another question by telling them Gregorovitch was dead, and Voldemort, whom they now called you-know-who, since Ron's nerves were so bad, was chasing a thief. Harry gave them almost no details about the thief, so Hermione insisted they shelve the topic, much to his annoyance. Once the Tales of Beetle the Bard was fully translated, they turned to the Parkinson transformation problem. Hermione, Harry, and Ron bombarded Draco with every question they could think of. They outlined every detail of the Parkinson estate and what they needed to do to break in, use the flooded Diagon Alley, and leave unnoticed. The plan was to deliver a batch of delicate chocolate-dipped madeleines, the Parkinson family favorite. The evening before, these expensive cookies came from Califer's Confections, where the icing swirled in enticing patterns. Fireworks, blooming flowers, raindrops hitting a sugary blue pond. Ron choked on his breakfast and had to be helped by Harry with a quick anapneo when Draco told them exactly how much a box of 5 cookies cost. They planned to fill each cookie with a delayed sleepiness solution. 6 hours after eating, the person would fall into 14 hours of deep, dreamless sleep. The Gryffindors would enter through Pansy's bedroom window. She never locked it to sneak out during holidays and flew out of the Parkinson house at 8 in the morning. They planned to return to Diagon Alley by 10, well before the Parkinsons would wake up. Still, there were details to sort out. The house elf would need distracting, and Draco warned that the gardener came every Thursday morning. An inconvenient overlap. They had to brew the sleepiness solution fresh to time its delayed effect just right. Hermione, deep into her Polyjuice potion brewing, left this task to Harry and Draco, which led to many unintended naps among the 3 boys. Frustrated that the Tales of Beetle the Bard offered no immediate help, Hermione had returned to practicing the Fidelius charm. She set aside 2 hours daily, from 3 to 5 in the afternoon, to wear the diadem and practice its spells, whether in a woodland, clearing, or mountainside near the tent. These sessions became the best part of her day. With the diadem on, she finally felt like the witch everyone expected her to be. Calm, confident, logical, and capable. She felt worthy of praise. Yet it was maddening that these hours were spent alone, unseen. In the hours without the diadem, she keenly felt its absence. At first, she worried if she was becoming dependent on it. But no, the feelings weren't about the diadem itself. They were about her own many flaws, imperfections she had always known but now saw more clearly, as if the diadem shone a light into dark corners of herself. Deep down, she knew she was incompetent and only lucky enough to fool others into thinking otherwise. She saw herself as self-righteous, condescending, and insufferable. She believed Harry and Ron tolerated her out of pity. She thought her parents were disappointed and would always be. She felt deeply unattractive and unable to compensate, which explained why Ron never committed and why Harry seemed embarrassed whenever they shared moments of closeness. The harsh truth was that she was a pathetic mudblood who would never truly belong in the wizarding world, only riding on the coattails of greater wizards. Hermione never spoke of the diadem or these thoughts to the others. She knew they wouldn't understand, and they might worry because it was a Horcrux. They might try to take it away, and that idea was painful. Not because she was attached to the diadem, no, she wasn't dependent. She strictly limited her use to 2 hours a day. It was because it was a useful tool for self-improvement. One afternoon, a week into September, she was practicing alone in a secluded spot near the tent. She spent most of the 2 hours trying spells other than the Fidelius charm because she didn't want to lie to her friends. If they asked whether she was ready to perform it, she wanted to say no, so she could keep practicing, keep trying to be a better witch, a better person, no longer a failure. Granger. She spun around, wand raised, but it was just Draco standing between the trees. She lowered her wand. His eyes were fixed on the diadem with a look she didn't like. He'd never told her what the diadem did for him. Was he jealous? Did he want to take it for himself? She decided to keep it safely in her bag where he couldn't reach it. Yes, she said. Potter's made dinner. It smells awful, so Weasley wants you to fix it. Hermione laughed. A sharp, higher-pitched laugh than usual. She liked this new laugh. All right, she said, approaching. Are you trying to learn the entire spell book? You've been practicing for weeks. None of your business. Draco glanced at her, eyebrow raised. She wasn't imagining it. His eyes lingered on the diadem. Helpful, isn't it? He said. Yes, she replied, narrowing her eyes. Do you think you can do the charm yet? No. They stopped outside the tent. Draco raised his eyebrows. You're not planning to wear that thing to dinner, are you? Hermione thought for a moment. One corner of his mouth curled. Was it a joke? Would anyone notice if she wore the diadem to dinner? She didn't want to take it off, really. But she also didn't want to draw more attention to it than necessary. Draco watching it this way felt awkward enough. The thought of Harry and Ron doing the same was unappealing. No, she said. I suppose not. Draco watched her waiting. She lifted her hands and touched the diadem, running her fingers over the silver filigree and sapphires. She pressed her fingertips into it, shifting it back and forth on her brow, not wanting to remove it until the coolness and clarity sank in deeply. Finally, with a great effort, as if lifting something heavy, she took the diadem off. A sudden headache stabbed behind her left eye. She hunched over, pressing one hand to her forehead, still clutching the diadem in the other. Granger? Draco stepped forward. She wanted to pull back, hold the diadem close, to keep him from snatching it. But the wary look on his face told her to hide her protectiveness. It was better if he didn't know. She forced herself to stand straight. Sorry. Headache. It's been bothering me all afternoon. She dropped the diadem carelessly into its beaded bag, as if it meant nothing. Her thoughts stayed on the diadem during dinner, and on Draco. She watched him carefully for signs of suspicion, but he seemed normal, sitting rigidly, his narrow face serious, gray eyes cool, only speaking when he could sound clever. As dinner went on, anxiety pulled at her again. The awareness of her own inadequacy. She wanted to read something, but what good was reading when she'd never really achieve anything? She felt jittery and sad, unsure how to ease it. Hermione? Harry said. Oh. I'm sorry, what? I said, are you all right? You look a bit pale. Yes, I'm fine, she said quickly, forcing a smile. After all, he didn't really care. He only asked because he felt sorry for her. That was the basis of their whole friendship. He and Ron had turned back for the girl crying in the bathroom because they were brave and good. And she was pathetic, but it was fine. She would put on a good show until tomorrow, when between 3 and 5 in the afternoon, she could focus again on bettering herself. Draco tapped quietly on the door. Draco had cast Muffliato down the hall, fairly certain Granger was asleep, but caution mattered. Come in, Hermione, Potter's voice called. It's not Hermione, Draco said. A pause, then the door cracked open, and Weasley poked his head in, frowning. What? I need to talk with you, Draco said. Obviously, since I'm standing here. Now let me in, will you? Weasley sighed and backed out. He hopped onto his bed, his maroon pajamas clashing wildly with the red-orange bedspread. Draco shut the door behind him. This was the largest bedroom in the flat, with 2 full beds, one for each twin. At first, Draco found it odd that 2 grown men shared a room until he saw their piles of notebooks, evidence of late-night collaboration. Separating would mean spending half their lives running between rooms. What's up? Potter asked warily from the other bed. It's Granger. What about her? Weasley asked, suddenly alert. Is she all right? I don't know, Draco said. I can't tell. What do you mean? It's the diadem. Something's wrong with it. Weasley and Potter exchanged uneasy looks. When I went to get her for dinner earlier, she was off. I can't explain it. She did take it off, right? Weasley asked. Draco nodded. But she doubled over when she did. Said it was a headache. She clearly thought she was doing a good job lying. She was strange at dinner, Potter said doubtfully, and quiet during a clemency lessons the past few days. Draco crossed his arms. Yeah, she needs to stop using it. Weasley looked guilty. Merlin. I thought it was fine. She seemed normal. No memory loss, no scared silence like Ginny had in second year. And it's only been 2 weeks. It took Ginny ages to get influenced by the diary. Draco thought of the way Granger had touched the diadem before all this, almost tenderly. I don't know, he said again. Well, Potter said firmly, we can't let this go any further. We'll talk to her tomorrow, all of us. Yeah, good, Draco said. But don't mention that I brought it up, okay? Weasley looked puzzled. Why not? I don't know, Draco muttered. Just don't. True to their word, neither Potter nor Weasley mentioned Draco's role. Over lunch, Potter said, Listen, Hermione, Ron and I have been thinking about that diadem. Granger's head snapped up. She looked shifty. What about it? She said, more present than in any recent conversation. We just think it'd be good if you took a break, Weasley said with a shrug. Did I do something wrong? She asked. The response was so strange Draco exchanged confused looks with Potter and Weasley. No, Potter said slowly. It's just to be safe. It is a Horcrux, after all. I know it's useful, but still. Oh no, Harry, Granger said quickly. Not now. I think I'm really close with the Fidelius charm. I can't stop now. Potter grimaced. How close? 3 days. 3 more days, and I think I'll have it. We can try it this Friday on the cottage. Is that okay? No one answered. She sighed, looking around at Draco, Potter, and Weasley. I'm sorry if I seem distracted, but I'm frustrated with that book Dumbledore left me. I don't understand what to do with it, and I wish I could help more with a clemency. Oh, come on, Hermione, it's fine, Weasley said, sounding braver. None of us know what Dumbledore was up to with his gifts, right? And I've been useless for Harry's clemency lessons for over a month. Weasley sounded relieved, and Potter looked less wary as he comforted Hermione, but Draco didn't trust a word she said. She sounded convincing, but he remembered how she'd hesitated touching the diadem, how she'd struggled to remove it. If the diadem was manipulating them all, he needed to stay ahead. All right, Draco said, cutting Potter off. Yeah, great, we're all useless and clueless about the old man's will. The point is, Granger, you've been wearing that thing for 2 weeks. We should see some results. Potter and Weasley looked annoyed. Granger didn't. For a moment, an odd, calculating look crossed her face, unnerving Draco, but he pretended not to notice. I don't want to waste another afternoon like the one in the woods, she said evenly. I told you I need 3 days, Malfoy. If you don't like it, try the charm yourself. Draco rolled his eyes extravagantly. Fine. Have your practice hours. But I'm watching. Someone should make sure we're actually as productive as we pretend. He sneered and left before she could argue. That afternoon, just as Draco expected, Granger tried to talk him out of following her. She used every argument. Clean the kitchen, help with the Parkinson plans, check on the polyjuice and sleepiness solution, draw up a clemency lessons, and more. Draco let none of it stick. He yawned often, checked his expensive watch repeatedly, and finally, Granger gave up, her face tight as she ported charms of the ancient days and the diadem out of the tent. It was a crisp, sunny September day. Draco sat on a flat rock, sunning himself like a cat, watching Granger practice. Every so often, she threw him annoyed looks. The second day was similar. Granger tried to wriggle free from supervision. Draco insisted, pretending to be oblivious enough that Weasley cornered him after dinner. What are you playing at? Keeping an eye on her, Draco muttered. Trying to be subtle, so shut up. On the third day, he decided to act. At the end of her practice, before she took the diadem off, he said, The charm looks good. Granger looked suspicious. Thank you. So, what will you do after you pretend to try it tomorrow? She froze. Her eyes flicked to the tent, then back to Draco. What are you talking about? She said hoarsely. He shrugged. You want to keep wearing that diadem. Those two want you to stop. If you perform the Fidelius charm properly, they'll make you stop. So you plan to fake it. It's what I'd do. Granger swallowed hard, looking deeply troubled. She pushed a stray lock of hair from her face and whispered, I'm sorry. Not to him, but to herself. Hearing that, Draco felt a cold new fear. What was the diadem doing to her? What was it telling her? He had to make her believe he was on her side. Her side and the diadems together. So you, she looked at him with glazed distrust. You're not trying to stop me? Why should I? I'm a Slytherin, Granger. We don't say no to a bit of extra power. We're not idiots. A sudden gleam lit her eye, a smirk tugged her mouth. Draco's stomach lurched hard. That expression wasn't hers at all. Then, just as quickly, she seemed herself again. Right, she said slowly. I do want to perform the Fidelius properly, Malfoy. That's the whole point. Yeah, sure. That's part of it. Draco's mind raced, still stuck on that gleam, that smirk. The Horcrux was already taking hold inside her, even if only for moments. You know, he said casually, if you get the charm right, we could probably convince Potter and Weasley that the diadem isn't dangerous. They're too busy to notice anything now. If you keep acting like you have been, I bet they won't care that you keep wearing it. Granger bit her lip. You noticed. You must have seen me acting differently. I must have done something wrong. Granger, he drawled. I've been watching the diadem. No, you've been doing really well. Really well, she repeated, voice catching. Really well, he confirmed. Do the Fidelius charm properly. The more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that's the way to make those two accept you wearing the diadem. Show good results, see? Granger stared off toward the distant glint of a lake through the trees. Well, Draco said, you know where I stand now. You'd better take that off before the others see you. He glanced at his watch. 2 past the hour, after all. At dinner, Granger kept glancing nervously at Draco. He held her gaze but didn't show any sign that what he'd seen had shaken him. They needed the Fidelius charm performed. If Granger could get it done before the diadem took deeper hold, they could lock it away until they found a way to destroy it. But if the diadem convinced her to fake the charm tomorrow, Draco didn't know what they could do. He didn't dare tell Potter or Weasley either, because Granger watched him closely from the moment he got up to the moment he retreated to the guest bedroom. He lay awake late that night, unable to sleep or stop thinking about her whispered words. I'm sorry. Near 1 in the morning, he heard the unmistakable creak of a floorboard outside. His heart dropped. He suddenly understood how the diadem had taken hold so fast, despite the strict time limits. Draco slipped out of bed, took his wand from the bedside table, and silenced his footsteps. He silenced the bedroom door's hinges before opening it. Across the dark apartment, he saw her, Granger, sitting unnaturally straight, her back to him, the diadem on her head. He knew without seeing her face that she was asleep. The diadem, unable to control her waking mind, had seeped into her subconscious. He wondered how many nights over the past 2.5 weeks she had sleepwalked through the apartment, drawn to the beaded bag on the mantel, slipping into the diadem's grasp. He instinctively knew that if she turned and saw him, she would attack. Not with her own skill, but with the deadly precision of Lord Voldemort. He had one chance to take the Horcrux from her. Draco closed the silenced door and crouched, so he could just see the crown of her head and the tiara's tip. Then he crept through the apartment. Halfway, he remembered to silence his breaths as well as his footsteps. She sat motionless, as if not even breathing, staring into an unlit fireplace. Moonlight glinted on the diadem's sapphires. Draco straightened, steeled himself, then in one smooth motion swept the diadem from her head. She collapsed as if struck dead. His heart stopped. He vaulted the sofa, letting the diadem clatter to the floor. Granger, he tried to say, then remembered the silencing charms. When he undid them, he said again, Granger, and shook her shoulder. Her eyes opened slowly. Relief flooded him. She was alive. Groggy, confused, but alive. Malfoy? What's? She looked around, eyes landing on the diadem. Still confused. It was controlling you in your sleep, Draco said. Her gaze dropped. He realized he was still holding her shoulder. He let go, feeling a strange warmth, then sat hard on the sofa beside her. We're putting that thing away, he said. None of us is touching it again. Granger looked stricken. No, she whispered. You don't understand. I need it. You can do the Fidelius charm yourself. I can't, she burst out, suddenly crying. The trance shattered. I can't do it right. I can't do anything right. Granger, Draco said, bewildered. What are you? What? All I do is fail over and over. In 3rd year, when the Dementors came and Harry tried to teach me. Then in 5th year at the Department of Mysteries, I stopped paying attention and nearly died, and Harry almost died trying to save me. And Dumbledore. I was right there, I could have. Granger. Draco's heart pounded. He had no idea what to do. She shook and muttered through sobs, barely audible, while he himself trembled from panic. The thought that he might have hurt her when he took the diadem. Hermione, he said gently. She startled, looking at him. She wore the oversized t-shirt she'd worn at home. A muggle shirt with the faded logo Granger Dental Studio, featuring a smiling tooth. He couldn't believe the diadem preyed on that insecurity. Hermione Granger's fear about her magical skill. Look, he said. Did you know last year all the first years knew who you were? What? She said, startled. Because you got so many outstanding O.W.L.s that the teachers told the first years about you by name. Even the Slytherin first years talked about you like you were the second coming of Rowena Ravenclaw. And the added insult. You're not even a Ravenclaw. Absolutely appalling. Draco shook his head. You know Goyle talks about you all the time? You know he'd kill to have brains like yours? And it's not just him. Everyone talks about you like that. You're not so big-headed to think you know better than everyone else at Hogwarts, are you? But they don't know. Didn't I just tell you, when it mattered, I couldn't? When it mattered? Draco said. So it doesn't matter that you've been setting protective enchantments wherever we go, or that you've learned spells to detect hexes and curses, or that you packed ingredients for. Apparently, every potion in the world. Doesn't matter that my family nearly got killed in Grimold Place, and you operate this out. If I hadn't operated into Grimold Place in the first place, there'd have been no need to. Stop. Draco gave her a sharp look. Now you're just parroting my mother, and she's never happy. Granger let out a small, surprised laugh. What? Well, you always get so angry when people say anything about your mother. Yeah, because that's other people. They don't know what they're talking about. Granger sniffled, wiping her face on her shoulder. I'm just so afraid of not being good enough. This charm, we really need it, and of course I can't do it. The moment I know something awful will happen if I fail, all I do is fail. I want to do important things, but it feels like all I'm good at are things like quizzes about Gilderoy Lockhart's favorite color, not what really matters. Draco rubbed his temple with his fingertips. The person she described barely seemed like herself, but he knew it was useless to say that. His eyes moved back to the diadem, gleaming innocently in the moonlight. What else did it tell you? He asked quietly. It didn't tell me. She sounded defensive. What else have you been thinking these past 2 weeks, then? Granger swallowed and pushed her frizzy curls back so Draco could see her full profile. That Harry and Ron don't. That I'm not good enough for them, that they find me annoying and are just putting up with me. I could give you plenty of evidence for that, too. Ron and I fight all the time, and I know Harry doesn't like me as much as he likes Ron. I need them more than they need me. And my parents are disappointed in me, which is true. They wanted a normal daughter and had plans for my life. And I have to compensate for things. What things? You know, being Muggle-born. Being not very pretty. Her voice was small and ashamed. Draco felt as if he'd been punched in the stomach. He didn't know what to say. I'm sorry? What would that change? If she believed these things, would his opinion matter? The diadem gleamed, and he hated it. That hate felt useful. You know what happens when I wear that thing? He said sharply. What? I know all about the people in the room. Granger's cheeks flushed. You mean legitimacy? No. I mean, I could always tell Weasley was insecure about money, and Potter felt like the odd one out. But with the diadem on, I could rip people wide open if I wanted. It made it so easy to see where power lies and where people feel powerless. And Weasley looks at you, and I can see he's been in love with you for years. Potter looks at you both and Draco grimaced. He'd die if anything happened to either of you. It's like reading his diary. All three of you are like that. I don't know about your parents, but... He gestured toward Potter and Weasley's bedroom. Those two would take the killing curse for you, no question. It doesn't even take the diadem to see it. They've practically offered multiple times these past weeks. Granger thought for a moment. Then she asked, why didn't you want to talk about that? A bitter laugh escaped Draco. Well, you see, Granger, it works on me too. And as it turns out, I don't want to know what people think or feel about me or where I stand. I put it on and saw it all so clearly. A couple years ago, I would have thought it was great, funny, even loved using it. But now, I just wanted to. I don't know. He shook his head, staring out at the forest. Wanted to get away. Not be involved. Not exist. His voice was tired and rough. He wanted to escape himself. I felt that way before. Granger settled on the opposite sofa, hugging a pillow. I went to a Muggle primary school. It was awful. Not the school, I was awful. I hate thinking about how I was always jeering at others for small mistakes. Of course, I had no friends. When I got my Hogwarts letter, I thought, this is my chance to leave that behind. A small smile played on her lips. He imagined her remembering opening that letter, like he had the summer before first year. So, she went on, I prepared and prepared. Hogwarts wasn't just a new school, but a whole new world. I thought I could just leave the old me behind and be so good at magic everyone would want to be my friend. But I was still lonely. I heard Ron say I had no friends once, and I realized I'd brought my old self with me. I couldn't just throw her away. She was still me. She shrugged, meeting his eyes. Sorry, Malfoy. I don't think you can escape what you used to be. I know, Draco said, settling back. It was just a feeling. They sat quietly, the diadem forgotten for a moment. Anyway, Granger said, if you could read what we were all thinking and feeling, it can't have been all bad. Yeah, why not? I was in the room too. Draco studied her. She looked calm, for the first time in days like herself. Yeah, he said. Wearing the diadem, he'd analyzed her like the others. The way her body angled toward him showed cautious interest, the tilt of her head openness, the blush when he met her eyes something he'd never expected from Hermione Granger. While Potter and Weasley's eyes showed wariness and hostility, hers did not. Seems like you didn't hate me, Granger. Her lips pressed together in a small, familiar smile. No, she said. I don't hate you. I don't hate you either.